Part 1: The Call with Faith and Action. Subtitle: When the enemy tries to silence the purpose, God awakens the call. Have you ever felt like your whole life you were fighting something invisible? As if every time you try to take a step forward, something pulls you back. As if there were a force trying to convince you that your dream is too big, and that God may have forgotten about you? Maybe you've asked yourself, why does everything seem to go wrong when I decide to do the right things? Why, just when I start seeking God more, do the attacks increase? Criticism comes, people move away, fatigue increases, and the mind seems to freeze. But let me tell you a spiritual truth. The closer you are to the purpose, the more intense the attack becomes. The enemy doesn't waste energy on those who are spiritually asleep. He pursues those who are about to awaken, those who are about to rise, those who carry within themselves a living promise. And maybe you looked at your life and thought, I don't see a way out anymore. But God is saying today, son, daughter, there is still a way out, and it is within me. The enemy wants you to believe it's over, but heaven is saying, it's just the beginning. I know there are times when pain screams louder than faith. There are days when prayer seems to reach no higher than the ceiling. But it is on these days that God works most in silence, because God's silence never means absence. It means He is preparing something too big to be explained now. You are not a mistake. You are not a failure. You are a project under construction in the hands of the Creator. And sometimes God needs to allow some things to fall apart in order to rebuild on a firm foundation, because He doesn't want your purpose to collapse with the first wind. Maybe you have lost friendships, opportunities, maybe you have been wronged, criticized, forgotten. But none of this disqualifies you before God. What qualifies you is your willing heart. God never called the strongest, He called those available. He doesn't seek perfection. He seeks surrender. And that's why you were chosen. Because even though you're scared, even though you're hurt, you're still here. Still have enough faith to hear a word. Still believes, still prays, still hopes. And this faith, even if small, is all God needs to begin a new story. It was with faith the size of a mustard seed that mountains began to move. And it is with this same faith that God will move the obstacles in your life. Remember Moses? A man who doubted himself, who thought he was incapable, stuttered, insecure. But he was chosen to liberate an entire nation. Remember Gideon? He saw himself as the least of his household, the weakest of the smallest tribe. But God called him a mighty man of valor. And remember David? Ignored even by his own family, but set aside to be king. Do you know what they all had in common? They weren't perfect, but they were willing to say, "Here I am, Lord." And that's what God expects of you. Not a flawless life, but a heart ready to obey, even when you don't understand. Because faith is not understanding, it is trusting that it's not seeing, it's believing that it's not about having control, it's about surrendering. And God is calling you to take this step of faith. Stop living in the past. Stop listening to the voices that diminish you. And start listening to the voice that created you. Do you know why? Because you carry something the world needs. There is an anointing, a talent, a message, a light that only you can release. And the enemy knows this. That's why he tries to distract you, tire you out, and make you give up. But what he doesn't know is that every time he knocks you down, God lifts you up even stronger. Every tear you shed, God collected. Every time you were humbled, He was taking note. Every door that has closed, He will replace with something better. Because God is an expert in transforming pain in direction and loss in purpose. What seems like chaos today will be testimony tomorrow. What hurts today will make sense tomorrow. What breaks you today builds you tomorrow. So don't give up. Don't give up. The enemy wants you to stop, but God is saying, go on. I'm with you. Even if no one believes in you, even if they mock your faith, even if they say it's impossible, remember. God is an expert in transforming the unlikely into the unforgettable. Faith puts you in places that human effort could never reach. And when you walk by faith, the impossible becomes just a matter of time. Maybe right now you're thinking, but I don't have the strength. And God answers, that is why I chose you, to show what my strength can do through a weak but willing heart. He doesn't need you to have all the answers, He just needs you to say, yes, Lord, I do. And do you know what happens when you say that yes? The sky moves. The angels take their positions. The impossible begins to fall into place. Because faith activates the supernatural. Now listen carefully. You are not hearing this message by chance. You are here because the Holy Spirit brought you. You could be anywhere else right now, But God has led you here because He wants to rekindle something that time has tried to extinguish. There is a calling upon your life. And this calling is not small. You were created to impact, to inspire, to transform. And while the enemy tries to paralyze you with fear, God is saying, walk. Because as you walk, I will part the sea. You don't need to understand everything to get started. You just need to believe. Faith opens doors that logic cannot unlock. So at this moment, I want you to do something prophetic. Backhand index pointing right, close your eyes. Take a deep breath and declare with power, Lord, I accept your call. I leave behind fear, doubt, and the past. I choose to live by faith. Even if I can't see, I trust. Even if it hurts, I follow. Because I know you are with me. Now write in the comments, I accept God's calling for my life. Write this with faith because every word spoken is a seed planted in the spiritual world. And what is planted with faith blossoms with purpose. And if that word touched your heart, leave your like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Because what comes next will build you up even more. In the next part, I will show you how the Bible reveals the process that transforms pain into destiny, desert into direction, and weakness into strength. Stay with me because God will show you the power that exists when faith meets action. Your turnaround is closer than you think. And today is the day for you to truly answer the call that heaven has placed upon you. Part 2, Introduction and Biblical Foundation. Subtitle: God looks at the heart, not the appearance. Let's dive into a powerful truth from the Bible that can completely transform the way you see yourself and how you walk in God's purpose. In 1 Samuel 16, God sent the prophet Samuel to anoint Israel's next king. Samuel looked at Jesse's sons and thought, this one is tall and strong. He must be the king. But God interrupted their thoughts in verse 7 and said, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at what people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Samuel was looking with human eyes, judging by what looked right, by what looked impressive, by what looked worthy. And how many of us do the same thing every day? We look in the mirror and think, I don't look like a leader. I don't look capable. I don't have the presence, the strength, the talent. Maybe you've heard people say, you're not cut out for this. Or you've already counted yourself out because you think you don't fit the mold that the world considers ideal. But God is saying, I see your heart. I know your potential. I have called you to greatness. And here is another biblical truth that strengthens this view. Proverbs 18 verse 16 says, man's gift gives him space and leads him before the great. In other words, the gifts God has placed within you, when cultivated with faith, patience, and action, will open doors that no one can close. The abilities, talents, and spiritual gifts He gave you were not by chance. Each one is a key, each one is an opportunity, each one is a divine calling. I want to share something personal that touched me deeply. For years I looked at my life and thought, I'm not enough. I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the resources, I don't have the authority. I compared myself to others and felt small, incapable, inadequate. And then this passage came. God showed me that He is not interested in my outward appearance or what people think, that He was interested in my heart, my disposition, my faith, and my obedience. When I understood this, everything started to change. The comparison stopped. The fear lost its strength, because I realized that God was silently preparing me, cultivating my gifts, shaping me for the purpose He had already planned long before I was born. And here's the gist. You may often feel like you're behind, that you've missed opportunities, or that you don't fit the ideal profile. But the truth is that God sees what no one else sees. He looks beyond your past, beyond your mistakes, beyond your appearance or the limitations you think you have. He sees the heart. He sees perseverance. He sees the faith you haven't yet recognized within yourself. And when you allow God to work through your heart, He transforms weakness into strength, fear into courage, and limitations into opportunities. He can take seemingly small talents and transform them into instruments of impact, light, and leadership. You might think, but I don't have the experience, I don't have the resources, I don't have the support. And God answers, I am enough. I will make you capable. I will open paths where you cannot see. You know, many of us look at the world and measure our worth by what others say or what we can do. But God measures by the heart, by surrender, by obedience, by faith that, even if small, moves mountains. And what He seeks is not perfection, but a heart ready to obey, even when it does not understand the way. So if you're feeling unqualified, insecure, or inadequate, let this truth sink into your mind and heart. God is looking inside you. He sees the capacity, the potential, the calling He has placed there. It doesn't matter what the world thinks or says. He sees something much bigger. And here's an invitation for you to act now. Backhand index pointing right, take a deep breath and declare, Lord, I want my eyes to see through your vision. Show me what is inside my heart, and help me use my gifts for your glory. If this word has already touched your heart, comment below. I accept God's call to use my gifts. This is a declaration of faith, and every declaration of faith moves heaven in favor of your purpose. Remember, the gifts God has given you are not just for you. They were given to impact lives, transform environments, and open doors that no one else can open. They were given for His glory and for the building of the kingdom. Now listen to this. Many of us wait for something extraordinary to happen before we begin to believe we can act. But the Bible teaches us that the extraordinary begins when we obey the calling, even if it seems small, even if no one sees, even if it seems impossible. Then like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because in part 3 I'll show you how to identify and activate the gifts God has already placed in you, and how to begin walking in His calling with courage, action, and faith, and more. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that God sees the heart, that He knows the potential, and that your calling is greater than any limitation the world tries to place. Don't leave there. In the next part, you'll find out how to transform potential into concrete action and walk towards purpose with confidence and boldness. Stay with me, because God wants to show you how what you have inside you can open doors, transform lives, and fulfill His plan. Your turning point is closer than you think. And today is the day to truly respond to the call that heaven has placed upon you. Part 3, Personal Testimony of Struggle. Subtitle: When God Calls in the Midst of Pain. For more than half my life, I have struggled to discover my true worth. Even after founding a successful consultancy, even after gaining recognition and money, there was a void that nothing could fill. The past, childhood pain, teenage rejections, moments of feeling invisible, and deep feelings of inadequacy kept me chained. I looked in the mirror and saw nothing of value. Sometimes I tried to mask my insecurity. He smiled, joked, and appeared confident in front of colleagues and clients. But when I got home, when I closed the door, I felt broken. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you also carry pain, trauma, or doubts that make you question whether God could really use you. I asked myself repeatedly, how could God call someone like me, someone full of flaws, fears, and emotional scars? I lived with a constant feeling of inadequacy, as if I was trying to prove something to myself and others but never succeeding. Everything started to change in February 2016. I was invited to a Priscilla Shirer event in Austin, Texas, with VIP tickets. I was excited but also terrified. Deep down I thought, what if no one notices me? What if I'm just another face in the crowd? I arrived early but hid in the back of the room, hoping to be invisible, trying not to draw attention to my fear and insecurity. Then Priscilla began to pray, and her words touched my heart in a way I didn't expect. Some of you are holding on to something that God wants you to release. She handed out 3x5 cards and said, write down what is holding you back and give it to God. I froze. Everything I had been through, all the hurts, all the words of rejection, all the disappointments, it seemed too heavy to put on a simple piece of paper. But in the silence of my heart, I heard God whisper, it's time. It's time to surrender everything and trust in me. It was a moment of internal confrontation. My mind said, no, I can't do this. My pain is too great. My shame is too heavy. But something inside me knew that this was the moment that would change my life. With trembling hands, I wrote down my pains, my fears, my failures, every feeling of inadequacy. And then in faith, I lifted the card and handed it to God. When I did this, I felt an immense weight lift from my heart, a sense of liberation, peace, and courage I had never experienced before. At that moment, I understood something profound. True transformation begins when we surrender our wounds to God, without reservation, without fear, and without hesitation. He doesn't just want your success. He wants your deliverance. He wants to restore your heart. Maybe you're watching this video and still feel that weight. Maybe the past still haunts you, the words of rejection still echo in your mind, and you feel like you can't break free. I want you to know that God is also whispering to you right now. It's time to surrender. It's time to trust. It's time to believe that I can transform every pain into purpose, every wound into strength. From that moment on, my life began to change. It wasn't instantaneous, but it began a silent, profound, and permanent transformation. I learned that God doesn't need us to be perfect. He needs us to be available. He transforms our pain into testimonies, our insecurities into courage, and our failures into opportunities for growth. And you need to understand something. God sees what no one else sees. He sees your heart, your potential, the hidden strength that you may not yet recognize in yourself. He sees what you can become when you surrender everything to Him. If you identify with this story, I want you to do something now. Backhand index pointing right, take a deep breath and declare with faith, Lord, I surrender all my pain, fears, and insecurities to you. Free me, strengthen me, and use me for your purpose. And if this word touched you, comment below. I surrender my past to God and accept my calling. This is a declaration of faith, and every declaration of faith moves heaven in favor of your purpose. Before we move on to the next part, remember, what you give to God today, He turns into victory tomorrow. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that no matter the past, God sees the heart and has plans for each of us. And don't leave here without enjoy. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because in part 4 we will talk about how to take the first steps of faith and action to live God's calling in practice. Stay with me because God wants to show that when you give your pain and insecurities to Him, He opens doors you never imagined. Today is the day to take the first step toward the freedom, purpose, and victory He has prepared for you. Part 4. Taking the first steps of faith and action. Subtitle: Transforming faith into movement and purpose into reality. If you followed this far, you've already realized something essential. God sees your heart, knows your potential, and has plans for you that go far beyond what you can imagine. But the big question now is, how to transform faith into action? How do you take that desire, that calling from your heart, and turn it into concrete reality? The first thing we need to understand is that faith without action does not produce fruit. It's like having precious seeds in your hands, but never planting them in the soil. God places opportunities in front of you, lights a flame in your heart, but you need to take the first step, even if it's small, even if it's uncertain. Step 1. Daily decision to trust. After surrendering my fears and pains to God, I began to create a daily habit of trust intentionally. Every day I said, Lord, I trust in you, even if I don't see the whole path. This small exercise of daily faith began to change my mind, my heart, and my perspective on life. And I realized something important. Even small acts of faith have a big impact. For example, a simple daily prayer of surrender began to transform my anxiety into peace, my fear into courage, and my uncertainty into action. Step 2. Identify your gifts and talents. Often we are so focused on our limitations that we forget the talents God has already given us. Take a notebook and write. What skills do you have? What activities make you lose track of time? What gifts do people recognize in you? When you connect these gifts to God's purpose, He begins to open doors you never imagined. Every talent is a key, every skill an instrument to impact lives. Think about it. If you don't identify your gifts, how can you use them fully? How many opportunities have you missed because you didn't believe your talents were enough? Step 3. Act with courage even when afraid. The Bible reminds us in Joshua 1 verse 9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. In the beginning, I was afraid of failure, afraid of rejection, afraid of the unknown. But I started giving small, consistent steps. Participating in events, speaking in public, writing about faith, helping people. With each step, I realized that God was with me, guiding me, opening the right doors and closing the ones that weren't meant for me. Reflection question for you. What is the first step you are avoiding out of fear? Write it down mentally or on paper and give it to God, trusting that He will make a way. Step 4. Persist despite failures. Yes, you will make mistakes. Yes, you will feel insecure. But God doesn't expect perfection, He does. Perseverance. Every mistake, every fall, every failed attempt is part of the growth process. I learned that faith grows in practice, when we continue to trust and act even in the face of adversity. Personal example. When I first started sharing my gifts at events, I failed a few times. My presentation didn't go as planned, my insecurity spoke louder. But each time I persisted, God strengthened my heart and corrected my path. Step 5. Connect with people who build. God also gives us mentors, friends of faith, and spiritual leaders to support us. Attending events like the one I went to in Austin, or being around people who inspire you, helps us stay focused and courageous. Don't walk alone. God uses relationships to strengthen and guide us. Reflect. Who are the people who build your faith and motivate you to act? Make a list and seek closer ties with them, learning and getting inspired. Step 6. Declare your purpose daily. Speak out loud what God has placed on your heart. Write down your goals, visualize your gifts being used, and thank God as if the result had already happened. Mark 11:24 teaches us, "Whatever things you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received them, and they will be yours." I do this every day. I declare my mission, my talents, and my steps of faith, and I give thanks as if everything were already accomplished. This changes not only the heart, but also the mind and the way we view opportunities. Part 5 Biblical Example 1, Moses and Faith in Action. Subtitle: When Faith and Courage Meet. Let's dive into the story of Moses to understand a transformative truth. True faith always requires action. In Exodus 14 verse 16, Moses finds himself before the Red Sea with the Israelites, surrounded by Pharaoh's army. Imagine the scene. Thousands of people depending on him, enemies closing in, and the sea before him, seemingly impossible to cross. God said to Moses, "Lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea." The miracle demands action. Fix something crucial. The sea did not part before Moses' action. The miracle happened because Moses obeyed. Even though he was afraid, even without seeing the result, he could not expect God to open the way without him taking the first step of faith. Imagine Moses' heart at that moment. Intense fear of failure, responsibility of leading thousands of people, pressure from an approaching enemy army. He might have thought, "God, I'm not leader enough. I don't know if I can. Maybe someone else is better prepared." But he trusted and acted. And the result? The sea parted and God's people crossed safely. Practical reflection for your life. This story challenges us to ask, what is the rod that God is asking you to lift up today? What step of faith have you been putting off out of fear or insecurity? Maybe it's start that ministry you've always dreamed of. Write or record content that impacts lives. Apply for the job you think you don't have enough experience for. Forgiving someone you can't forget. Declare your faith or gifts publicly. The lesson is clear. Don't wait for everything to be perfect to act. Active faith requires courage, it requires movement. God can prepare miracles, open paths, but He expects you to do your part. Detailed examples of faith in action. The crossing of the Red Sea was not instantaneous. Moses raised his rod and began to act. The people were probably scared, unsure whether they should follow. But when a leader acts in faith, he inspires action in others. So it is in our lives. Your obedience can open paths not only for you but for those around you. Courage in the face of the impossible. The Red Sea was impossible to human eyes. But for God, no obstacle is too great. How many Red Seas do you have ahead of you? Financial, family, professional, or spiritual problems? The lesson is, the impossible becomes possible when you obey with faith. Obedience despite fear. Moses did not know how the sea would part, nor how long it would take. He acted before he had complete answers. This is the principle of faith, to act even without visible guarantees, trusting that God fulfills His promises. Applying the story of Moses today. Identify your Red Sea. What challenge seems impossible? Be specific. Financial, emotional, spiritual, or professional. Receive God's instruction. Pray, seek the Word, ask for wisdom. What concrete action do you need to take today? Raise your rod even if it seems small, do something towards the solution. Every step of faith is part of the miracle. Trust as you walk. The miracle happens while you obey, not before. Reflection questions for the audience. What is the rod that God is asking you to lift up today? What step have you been putting off out of fear? Have you been looking only at the impossible, or are you ready to act in faith? How can your action inspire others around you? Ask viewers to post their answers in the comments, increasing engagement and interaction. Interactive faith exercise. Now I want you to do it with me. Backhand index pointing right. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and declare, Lord, I will lift up my staff and act in faith today. I will not wait for everything to be perfect. I trust you and commit my steps into your hands. If this word touches your heart, comment below. I will lift up my rod and act in faith today. The power of the first step. Moses' greatest lesson is that the first step in faith is often the most difficult, but also the most transformative. If he had hesitated, thousands of people would have been trapped. How often is it your own hesitation that prevents a miracle from happening in your life? Small acts of obedience have a multiplier effect. They transform your heart. They inspire other people. They put you in a position to experience miracles. Preparing for the next step. Look for opportunities in front of you. Identify acts of faith that you can take immediately. Record progress and victories, even small ones. Share your faith and actions with people who build your journey. Before we go to the next part, like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because in part 6 we will explore other biblical examples of faith in action and how to apply them directly to your life, showing that no matter how big the obstacle, God can make a way when you act in faith. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that now is the time to act, not wait, and that God is ready to open doors that no one can close. Part 6 Biblical Example 2. The Woman with the Issue of Blood. Subtitle: Faith that Overcomes Barriers and Obstacles. Let's dive into another powerful example of faith in action. In Luke 8 verses 43 to 48, we find the story of the woman who had been suffering from an issue of blood for 12 years old. She had spent everything on doctors, medicine, and treatments, but nothing brought relief. The pain, frustration, and shame haunted her for over a decade. But everything changed when she heard about Jesus that was passing through the city. She thought, "If I just touch the hem of his garment, I will be healed." Look at this woman's courage. She wasn't sure if it would work. She was weak, perhaps debilitated and desperate. I needed to cross a crowd, face critical looks and physical and emotional barriers. Even so, she didn't stand still. She acted in faith, even without guarantees, even without certainty of the result. She believed that a simple touch would be enough. The power of active faith. This story shows us that faith is not passive. True faith demands action, even when the path seems impossible or when fear and doubt threaten to paralyze us. She not only wished for healing, she advanced towards Jesus, faced obstacles, and put his confidence into practice. And the result was extraordinary. "Daughter, your faith has saved you. Go in peace." In an instant, the power of God flowed over her. Her action, guided by faith, unlocked the miracle she so desperately needed. Practical reflection for your life. Now it's time to ask yourself, what are the crowds you need to get through today? What obstacles, doubts, or criticisms are in your way? What fear do you need to face to achieve what God has prepared for you? Maybe you are hesitating in your work for fear of failing or not being accepted. In your ministry or service because you think you are not capable. In their relationships out of fear of rejection or judgment. Just like the woman with the issue of blood, you need to act, even when everything seems difficult or uncertain. Active faith requires movement, courage, and determination. Practical application of the example. Identify your obstacle. What's standing in your way? Fear, doubt, criticism, lack of resources? Take the step of faith. Do something concrete today. It could be a prayer, an act of service, a decision to forgive, or a declaration of purpose. Trust in the power of God even if you don't see immediate results. Keep moving forward. Miracles happen when you act with faith. Persist despite barriers. Just as the woman broke through the crowd, you need to keep moving toward what God has prepared for you. Reflection question for the audience. What barrier are you facing that seems impossible to overcome? What step of faith are you hesitant to take? Ask viewers to write in the comments. I will step forward in faith today. Interactive faith exercise. Now I want you to do it with me. Backhand index pointing right. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and declare, "Lord, I step out in faith today. Even in the face of multitudes of fear, doubt, and criticism, I trust in you and take my step of action." If this word touches your heart, comment below. I will step out in faith today. Remember, faith that does not act is stagnant faith. When you act with courage, even when you are afraid, God's power flows and miracles happen. Preparing for the next step. Look at the obstacles that lie before you and decide to face them with faith. Identify small actions you can take today toward victory. Share your actions of faith with people who build your journey. Celebrate every step you take, even if it seems small. It's already part of the miracle. Before we go to the next part, like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because in part 7 we will explore how to sustain a life of active faith. applying the principles learned from Moses and the woman with the issue of blood in their daily lives, transforming faith into continuous victory. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that acting in faith today can change everything tomorrow, and that God is ready to move miracles in your life. Part 7: Keeping Faith Active. How to Turn Action into Ongoing Victory. Subtitle: Persistence, Discipline, and Trust in God. If you've made it this far, you've already seen powerful examples of faith in action with Moses and the woman with the issue of blood. But now a crucial question arises. How do you keep your faith active even after the first step? How do you turn moments of courage and action into continuous victories in your spiritual, emotional, and professional life? The truth is this: faith is not just an isolated act. True faith is a lifestyle, a daily practice that requires discipline, persistence, and continued trust in God. 1. Establish daily faith habits. Faith grows when you practice every day. This doesn't mean big, extraordinary acts every day. Often, small, consistent steps produce great miracles. Some habits that strengthen faith. Start your day with prayer and surrender to the Lord. Read and meditate on God's Word daily. Declare your promises and gifts out loud. Record victories and learnings in a spiritual journal. These habits make faith natural, a force that guides your actions even when fear or doubt try to invade. 2. Face obstacles with courage every day. Just like Moses before the Red Sea and the woman with the issue of blood, you will have constant barriers. Criticism from people around you, temporary failures and disappointments, old fears that try to paralyze you. The secret is in persist even in the face of these difficulties. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity to strengthen your faith and prove that you are willing to trust God above all else. Question for reflection: what obstacle have you been avoiding out of fear? What step can you take today to face it with faith? 3. Turn prayer into action. Many of us pray for miracles, but we forget that prayer must go hand in hand with action. The Bible teaches that faith without works is dead, James 2 verse 17. This means you need to pray asking for direction, wisdom, and strength. Act according to the guidance you have received from God. For example, if you want to open a ministry, start planning, seeking knowledge, connecting with people who can support you, while praying for God's direction. If you want to improve your career, don't just pray for an opportunity. Submit resumes, go for interviews, and seek to learn new skills. The combination of prayer plus action is what opens doors that no one can close. 4. Celebrate every victory no matter how small. Many people wait for great miracles to rejoice, but God works in the details. Every step taken in faith is a miracle in itself. The courage to forgive someone who hurt you. The decision to share your faith or talent. Persistence in a project even when difficulties arise. Celebrating small victories strengthens your trust in God and keeps your faith active. Remember, victory is built step by step, day after day. 5. Connect with people who strengthen your faith. God doesn't want you to walk alone. Surround yourself with people who build, inspire, and challenge you to grow. With essential. Join Bible study groups or faith communities. Talk to mentors and leaders who have already walked the path. Share your experiences and learnings. This support network keeps you motivated, helps you overcome doubts, and creates learning opportunities that accelerate your journey. 6. Remember, faith is for life. Moses faced the desert for 40 years before entering the Promised Land. The woman with the issue of blood waited 12 years for a cure. This teaches us that faith is a journey, not a one-time event. Miracles may not happen immediately, but persistence in faith ensures that you will reach the outcome God has prepared for you. Reflection for the public. Ask yourself, am I living in active faith or just waiting for miracles to happen? What faith habit can I implement today to keep my heart steadfast in God? Who can I involve in my journey to strengthen my faith in action? Interactive faith exercise. Now I want you to do it with me. Backhand index pointing right. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and declare, Lord, I commit my life to active faith every day. I will act with courage, persevere in the face of obstacles, and trust you for every step of my journey. If you are committed to this, comment below. My faith will be active every day. Like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this word. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next parts. Remember, faith without action does not produce fruit, but active faith transforms lives. Start today even with small steps. God will open doors, move mountains, and perform miracles when you act with faith and perseverance. Part 8 Conclusion. Turning Faith into Concrete Results. Subtitle: The Final Call to Act with Courage and Confidence. We have reached the final part of this journey of faith. If you've been following along from the beginning, you've seen powerful examples: Moses before the Red Sea, the woman with the issue of blood, and our reflections on how to maintain an active faith daily. Now it's time to connect all these teachings and transform them into practical action in your life. The central message is clear. Faith without action is stagnant, but active faith transforms realities. What God wants from you is not just to believe, but act with courage, perseverance, and confidence, even when everything seems impossible. 1. Recapitulating the examples of faith. Moses, he didn't wait for the sea to part. He acted in faith, lifted his rod, and trusted that God would make the impossible happen. The woman with the issue of blood, despite her weakness in the crowds, she went forward to Jesus, touched his cloak, and was healed. Your life, every challenge you face today is an invitation to act in faith, overcome obstacles, and transform your reality. The pattern is the same. Identify the obstacle, act even when afraid, trust in God, and persist until you see the result. 2. Transforming principles into practical actions. Now it's time to apply all this to your daily life. Identify your Red Sea, or your multitude of obstacles. What seems impossible in your life today? Recognize your barriers, whether they are financial, emotional, professional, or spiritual. Take the first step in faith. Even if it is small, this step starts the movement of the miracle. It could be a prayer, a courageous decision, a forgiveness, a project you've always wanted to start. Maintain daily faith habits. Read the Bible, pray, declare your promises out loud, celebrate small victories. Faith is strengthened through constant practice, not just in isolated moments. Surround yourself with people who build you up. Seek out mentors, friends, or groups that encourage your faith. Sharing your journey strengthens commitment and inspires others to take action too. Persist even when results are not immediate. Remember, Moses waited decades to see the promised land. The woman with the issue of blood waited 12 years. God acts in his own time, but he expects you to keep moving forward. 3. Deep reflection for the audience. Ask yourself, have I been acting in faith or just waiting for miracles to happen? Am I willing to take the step, even if it's small, every day? What action can I take today that demonstrates trust in God? Faith is not just believing. It is act, persist, and trust continually, even when everything seems impossible. Every step you take toward action, God turns into victory. Think about the impact that small, consistent acts can have. An act of forgiveness today can transform a relationship forever. A project started with faith today can open doors you never imagined. A decision to declare your faith or share your gifts can inspire dozens of people around you. Active faith not only transforms your life, but also influences and blesses everyone close to you. 4. Interactive faith exercise. Now I want you to do it with me. Backhand index pointing right, close your eyes, take a deep breath and declare, Lord, I commit to acting in faith every day. Even when faced with obstacles, criticism, or fear, I trust in you and move forward with courage. Transform my actions into miracles, my decisions into opportunities, and my faith into concrete results. If you are ready to make this commitment, comment below. I will act in faith every day. 5. Motivation to act immediately. Don't wait for conditions to be perfect, for the path to be completely clear, or for everyone to believe in you. Active faith means act even when the impossible seems inevitable. Remember Moses at the Red Sea and the woman with the issue of blood. Both faced enormous obstacles but acted and trusted, and the miracle happened. Now imagine if you apply this same faith to your life. What projects will you stop putting off? What relationships can you restore? What dreams can you finally start to realize? Every step you take in faith is an opportunity to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. God does not want you to live in doubt, but that be bold, persistent, and courageous, moving with faith even in the face of the unknown. 6. Practical planning to transform faith into results. So that your faith becomes continuous action and generates results. List the 3 biggest obstacles in your life right now. Write down one concrete step you can take today toward each of them. Pray for direction and strength. Take the steps even if they are small. Review your progress daily and celebrate each victory. By following this plan, you not only keep your faith active, but you also create a cycle of action, victory, and gratitude, which transforms not only your life, but also the lives of everyone around you. 7. Final reflection and encouragement. Never underestimate the power of active faith. God wants you to identify the obstacles, move forward in courage, trust even without seeing, persist every day. Every step taken in faith is a seed that will blossom into blessings, victories, and miracles. You don't need to see the whole path ahead. You need act, trust, and persist, and God will do the rest. Remember, transformation begins with a step of faith today. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Don't wait for human approval. Be why lifting up your rod, going through your crowds, and acting courageously, you will see God move miracles in your life in powerful and lasting ways. Part 9. Applying Faith in Action in Daily Life. Subtitle: When faith leaves the realm of words and enters the territory of attitudes. We have reached an essential point in this journey. So far, we've talked about faith, biblical examples, courage, and how God works through those who decide to act. But now comes the most important moment. Bring all this into real life, into your everyday life. Because there is no point in listening, being inspired, being moved, and then continuing to live the same way. True faith begins when the speech ends and the action begins. Think for a moment. How many times have you felt God calling you to do something but hesitated? How many ideas, gifts, or dreams have been put on hold due to fear, doubt, or simply, "I'll do it tomorrow"? But God does not work in tomorrow. He works today, the very moment you decide to move. That's why James 2 verse 17 says, "So also faith, if it does not have works, is dead in itself." Faith without action is like a seed kept in a drawer. It has potential, but it will never bear fruit. On the other hand, when you plant, care for, water, and act, God makes things grow, multiply, and flourish. 1. How to live your faith in a practical way. Faith is not just an emotion or a beautiful feeling during prayer. Faith is a daily decision, sometimes silent, sometimes painful, but always powerful. Living by faith means saying, "Even without seeing, I trust. Even with fear, I move forward. Even when tired, I continue." Here are practical ways to apply faith in action in everyday life. At work, serve with excellence even when no one recognizes it. God sees. In the family, pray for those who have hurt you. Bless those who have criticized you. This is faith in action. In health, take care of your body, mind, and soul. Do your part and trust in God's restorative power. In spiritual life, read the Word every day, even when your heart is cold. Consistency brings transformation. In dreams, start the project, send that email, record the video, write down the idea. The first step is always the most important. God doesn't demand perfection. He demands movement. He works with those who walk, not with those who stand still. 2. When faith is tested, growth happens. Every time you decide to act in faith, the test comes. The enemy will try to convince you that nothing is changing, that you are not capable, that it is not worth continuing. But remember, the test is preparation for testimony. Think of Joseph, sold by his brothers. Think of David, forgotten in the field. Think of Peter, who denied Jesus and yet was used to preach salvation. Everyone has had moments when it seemed like God was silent. But God's silence is never absence, it is training. While you sit still, God is shaping you, teaching you, strengthening you. He is building within you the spiritual structure necessary to sustain what He will deliver to you. So when the fight comes, don't back down. When doubt strikes, don't stop, stay strong, because each step of faith is a brick that builds the miracle that is to come. 3. Turn your day into an ongoing journey of faith. Faith is not only lived on Sunday, nor only in church. She needs to be in every choice, in every word, in every attitude. Living by faith is looking up at the sky in the morning and saying, "Lord, guide my steps today. I want to be your will in action." Start with small actions. Pray before making a decision. Be thankful even when things don't seem to make sense. Take a bold step for something that burns in your heart. Offer help to someone without expecting anything in return. Share a word of faith with someone who is discouraged. These gestures, when done in faith, move the heart of God and transform the environment around them. 4. Creating a lifestyle of active faith. It is not enough to act once in a while, it is necessary to live constantly by faith. Active faith is a spiritual discipline, and like any muscle, it needs to be exercised. You strengthen your faith when you choose to trust every day, even if you don't see immediate results. So practice daily. Decision. Choose to believe even when fear says it won't work. Perseverance. Keep praying, even when it seems God is silent. Trust. Surrender the results to Him and rest. Action. Do what you can and God will do the impossible. Remember, faith without action is theory. Faith in action is power. 5. The power of faith that inspires others. Your faith isn't just about you. It's about those who watch you. People around you are watching how you react to difficulties. When they see you acting in faith, even in the midst of storms, they are inspired to do the same. You can be the instrument God uses to awaken someone's dormant faith. A simple action of yours can spark hope in another person's heart, so keep going. Even when it's hard, because your life is a living testimony. 6. Exercise of faith and final declaration. Now I want to invite you to a moment of surrender and declaration of faith. Backhand index pointing right, close your eyes, take a deep breath and say with me, Lord, I decide to live a living, active and constant faith. I don't just want to believe. I want to act, serve, build and move forward. Even if the path seems uncertain, I trust in your plan. Use my life, my hands and my gifts for your glory. Today, I choose to live what I believe. If you say this from your heart, write in the comments, I choose to live what I believe. This simple act of faith is the first step towards a great transformation. God does not need crowds to act. He needs a heart willing to obey. 7. Invitation to concrete action. Now is the time to act. Take a paper and write 3 things you will do in the next 7 days as proof of your active faith. Maybe it's, start something you've been putting off for months. Call someone and release forgiveness. Seek spiritual or emotional help. Share a word of faith on your social networks. Take a step towards the dream that God has placed in your heart. After that, pray about each of these actions and trust that God will act through your obedience. 8. Motivational closing. You were born to act with faith. You were chosen to impact lives, to bring light in times of darkness. And when you move, the sky moves with you. Nothing is too small when done in obedience. Every courageous decision you make is a seed that God will water with favor, grace, and purpose. Then get up. Today is the day to transform faith into action, promise into movement, and waiting into achievement. You are not alone. The same God who parted the sea, who healed the sick, who restored lives, is beside you now, ready to work through you. And remember, when faith becomes movement, the impossible becomes reality. Part 10. Final conclusion. The Call to Live on Purpose. Subtitle: Your faith, your action, your transformative impact. We have reached the conclusion of this journey of faith and action. If you followed all the previous parts, you've seen powerful biblical examples, stories of overcoming adversity, testimonies of transformative faith, and practical strategies for living with purpose. Now it's time to integrate everything and fully embrace your calling, in a practical, continuous, and courageous way. God did not create us to be spectators of life. He created us to be agents of change, instruments of transformation and light in the world. Its purpose is unique, specific, and necessary. He is not looking at your failures, your limitations, or your fears. He sees your heart willing to obey and act. 1. God's purpose in daily practice. Living on purpose isn't something that happens by chance. It's a conscious, daily, and strategic decision. Every choice, attitude, and word can be used by God to fulfill His plan. Ask yourself, what talents am I not using yet? What dreams are stopped by fear or doubt? What practical actions can I take today to advance my calling? When you answer these questions and take action, you stop being just an observer and become the protagonist of your faith story. 2. Faith that manifests itself in action. We have seen that faith without action is powerless and action without faith is empty. The key is faith, courage, and movement. Believe, recognize that God has called and empowered you. Just take concrete steps, even small ones, towards your purpose. Persist, stand firm in the face of criticism, obstacles, or doubts. Trust, surrender the results to God and trust Him to act as you move. When you combine these elements, your faith becomes a transformative force, capable of generating miracles and opening doors that no one can close. 3. Overcoming obstacles and fears. We all face barriers: fear of failure, criticism from people close to you, insecurity about our capabilities, internal doubts. Every obstacle is an opportunity for growth. Recall biblical examples. Joseph sold by his brothers, David still in the field, Peter who denied Jesus. All faced great hardships, but remained faithful to God's purpose. Ask yourself, what barrier am I avoiding today? What fear do I need to give to God? What step of faith can I take now, even without seeing the whole path? When you act despite fear, you strengthen your faith and make room for real miracles. 4. Transforming everyday life into active faith. Living on purpose is a daily practice, not just in moments of emotion or special events. Active faith means act with confidence even in the small details of life. Make decisions based on divine principles. Persist when discouragement or doubt arise. Serve others without expecting recognition. Every gesture, every action done with faith, generates a multiplier effect, transforming your life and inspiring others around you. 5. Practical planning for active faith. To transform your faith into concrete results, list 3 clear goals for the next 30 days aligned with your purpose. Break each goal down into small daily steps, achievable and consistent. Pray asking direction and strength before each step. Track your progress and celebrate every victory, no matter how small. Repeat the cycle daily, adjusting strategies when necessary, but without losing consistency. Every small step of faith is a seed that God waters, multiplying into extraordinary fruits. 6. Exercise of faith and powerful declaration. Now I want you to commit to this statement of faith. Backhand index pointing right, close your eyes, take a deep breath and say, Lord, I accept living my purpose. I commit to acting in faith every day, to persist in the face of obstacles, to trust you even when I don't see the full path, and to use my gifts for your glory. Today, I decide to fully live the purpose that the Lord has placed in my heart. If you really feel this way, comment below. I accept living on purpose. This simple action is the first step in a life of active faith, which will transform your reality and the world around you. 7. Impact of faith and action on your life and others. Living on purpose isn't just about you. Your active faith is a beacon for others. People around you will be inspired by your courage. Friends and family will see that it is possible to move forward, even in the face of difficulties. Their attitudes of faith become an example and motivation for those who need hope. Your life can be the instrument that God uses to ignite dormant faith in another person. 8. Call to immediate action. Don't wait any longer. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Today is the time to take a step you've been putting off, making a courageous decision even without guarantees. Declare your faith publicly. Act with purpose even if the results are not yet visible. Every step taken in faith is a powerful movement that creates miracles, opens doors and transforms lives. 9. Final motivation. You were born to act with faith. You have been called to impact lives, be a light in the darkness, and transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Get up, move forward, and trust in God. Every action you do with faith is a declaration of obedience, courage, and purpose, and God will be with you every step of the way. Remember, when faith becomes action, the impossible becomes possible, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and lives are transformed, including yours. Comment below, share this message with someone who needs to hear it, and start living faith in action today that transforms your life and your world.